Did you ever get halfway into a project and think, yeah, this is all looking really good, but then also another thought pops into your mind, hang on a minute, how am I actually going to store this and carry it about? Well, that happened to me this week, and the answer, funnily enough, came in the form of pizza. Yes, today on Dragon's Teeth, we're continuing our graveyard build. Hi folks, thanks for joining me today in the latest graveyard build instalment, and we're getting close to the end now. But yes, this issue did arise, and I don't know if you're like me, it's very easy to start new projects, right? Sometimes at the expense of ones you haven't quite finished yet. So I started the graveyard build, and I thought, yeah, I've got these 1 foot square tiles, we've got 9 of them, a nice layout for the table. And I sort of had at the back of my mind a thought that, yeah, I've got loads of plastic tubs, you know, from my favourite shop, B&M. So there's bound to be one of those that will fit that I can store these things in. But of course, as I came to the actual build and as I started constructing it, I realised that that was potentially going to be a bit problematic. And the main issue is where I've just got my normal terrain that's relatively flat. If I was just having grass and roads, maybe a bit of vegetation. But of course, where I've got my graveyard furniture, particularly these whacking great obelisks, then that's going to create a problem. Do I get two in a box, in which case I need like 5 boxes? Can I layer them on top of each other somehow? There's a risk of damage. So, you know, that was the issue. Anyway, that has now been, well, hopefully solved. We're going to find out about that a little bit later on. But what I'll do first is just take you through where we're up to now. We've made a lot of progress. The perimeter of the graveyard is done. I haven't had a chance to do the wash yet. I did say this time I was going to look at making my own wash and applying that. Not really had time to do that, so that will go on to next time. But let's have a look and see what I've actually been doing this week. Let's start with the trees then. 3D prints from Etsy, and of course I'll put the link down below. Already been undercoated, spray black, got a couple of shades of dark brown, and yeah, just going to slap those shades on. Nothing too refined about this. Once they're dry, then I give them a dry brush with a lighter brown, and that's pretty much it for the trees at the moment. While I've got that brown out, I've also got these coffins to do as well, which will be placed around the board at various points. So it's just giving these a fairly dry brush with a lighter brown. And again, while I've got that light brown out, I'm dry brushing some of the fresh graves as well. They've already had a dark brown undercoat. So just giving those a bit of a highlight. Now, another feature I thought would be nice to add in would be to have some ruined walls as well. So I'm using foam board, a 25mm figure just for scale, and then just cutting straight through that with a craft knife. This stuff is great because it's as easy to work with as sort of styrofoam packing, but it's much firmer. You don't get all those little bits going all over the place. Now I'm just shaping that section down, rounding off the corners, making that look a bit ruined. As you'll see, I've cut the length down as well. I didn't want these bits to be too long. Now I'm using some scrunched up foil and just pressing that along each side and top of the wall just to give it some texture. And from there, just using a ballpoint pen to put in indents to signify the bricks or the stones. And again, this material is very easy to work with. And then for the actual railings, I've got a load of cocktail sticks, so I just cut some of those in half, just doing a test fit there. then it's just gluing those into place with some PVA. And for a crossbar, I just use another cocktail stick with the ends cut off. Again, just stuck on with PVA. And then laying that across the sort of width of the railings. Put those to one side and let them dry. And there we go. There's my ruined wall sections ready to be undercoated. So as well as walls, I thought we'd have a couple of hedges as well. This is horsehair. It's used in furniture. This is a great material, very easy to work with again as well. You just cut it with a pair of scissors. And it's relatively inexpensive. Great way to make hedges. And then I'm just cutting that length in half, so I've got two shorter lengths to work with. And of course you can cut these down to any size you want. And in fact, what I found was where I've got the join in my boards, then the hedging was great to use for this. So I've got a small part there, a liberal application of the glue, stick that next to the pillar, and from there I just take another piece and stick that to the tile, the adjacent tile, and there we go. You can barely see the join. So that gives a bit of continuity in the perimeter. Bit of excess glue there, but you can wipe that up and it's okay. It does dry transparent anyway. So there's a view of the perimeter now. That's a mixture of columns with the railings, hedges and ruined wall sections with a few gaps here and there. And over on this left hand side, that's going to be the forest, so the trees will go along there. So yeah, that's the perimeter pretty much done. I thought I'd add in here a little bit more scatter. I've got a mix of things. There's some herbs and I've got these little spongy bits, SpongeBob spongy bits, and some sort of flowers as well. And it's just a matter of putting a big dollop of glue down wherever you want to stick them, putting those sponge bits in place. Then I've got a handy little trowel type implement just to push them down. And I'm going to add a little bit more glue to that and then sprinkle those herbs on. They look really nice as fallen leaves. Gives it a bit of an autumnal look, I hope. And I'll just leave all that to dry overnight. Going to do the same thing for the paths and for around some of the tombstones. Again, just dolloping glue left, right and centre. Then adding in the scatter and my spongy vegetation. The nice thing with using these herbs is they smell good as well. That's sticking with the pizza theme. More on that in a moment. Having got all that scatter done, I wanted to get back to the railings and give them a bit of a rusty look. So I found this old tin or jar of Tensor's rust, and I'm just going to put some of that onto my railings here. They've already been painted a sort of metallic grey. I've still got some of those columns to do because I actually ran out of grey paint. There's a lot of grey when you paint a graveyard. That's why it's called a graveyard, I suppose. So just dotting that rust on here and there, and also onto the cemetery gates. And that's my perimeter and some scatter pretty much done. So back to my problems, back to my storage and transportation issue. I was sitting there the other night going through YouTube. I think I typed in something like Wargaming terrain storage. And I was getting a lot of good things coming up. Mel the Terrain Tutor and various other people. Most of them were packing stuff into plastic tubs. One or two were making these sort of portable shelves, I guess like a box with lots of shelves in, but that looked like quite a lot of work. My DIY skills are not that great. The other thing I saw that I thought, oh, this might be useful, underbed storage shoe boxes. So there are these big boxes about sort of 3 or 4 foot long. You put all your shoes in. Sometimes they have little compartments, and you can slide these under the bed. They're nice and deep. I thought, oh, maybe I can get a couple of those and work something out that way. Meanwhile, my wife Lara was sitting there eating her dinner, which was pizza, and she said with that sort of casual genius, as she often does, why don't you use pizza boxes? Boom! So I started investigating. Now, you might think, oh, this is great, because what you can do now is order in a load of pizza, have some nice pizza, and then you can use the boxes. Well, it's a nice thought, but there's three things with that. There's three issues. First is used pizza boxes, full of grease, very difficult to clean. Second thing is, last year I was diagnosed as type 2 diabetic, and one thing I didn't know before finding that out was, obviously, of course, you think sugar. You got to cut right back on your sugar, right? Because that increases your blood sugar levels. What I also found out was the same goes for carbohydrates. Bread, pasta, rice, pizza, of course. When you eat carbohydrates, that also spikes your blood sugar levels. So, unfortunately, no more pizza for me, at least for the moment. And the third issue is the actual depth of the pizza box. They tend not to be very deep. So this is okay if I've got bases that are maybe about 10 mil high, centimetre high or so. That would be fine. But of course, where I've got these obelisks that are, I think they're about 70 mil high, most of them, then that's an issue. Anyway, further investigation revealed some parcels, some post office parcel boxes, and these came in a range of sizes, and furthermore, I could get 10 of them for 15 quid. So that's what I did, and they arrived just this morning. Let's have a look. So here we are. I've literally just opened these, and they come in packs of 10. So yeah, these are basically postage boxes, and and you fold these up and make them. And I've had a measure, and these should be big enough to get not only one tile in, but perhaps some other bits and pieces as well. Of course, the big question is, are they going to be deep enough? I think they're about 90 mil deep, so hopefully they are. But you know, there's only one way to find out. Let's make one up and put a tile in it. So let's just lay this out flat to start. Yeah, looks like an easy thing. We've got slots here, we've got tabs there, and I think we just simply fold those end tabs in. It goes over. There we go. And the other side, fold those in. Fold that over. There we go, very easy to put together. Oh, I just need to put that other flap in as well. So there's our box. It has a sort of code on it here. I'll put all the details up in the notes below. It looks like BXDC10. I think that says there. But yeah, I'll put the link up below. So there's our box. That took, you know, very little time to put together. The big question now is, will our terrain pieces fit? So let's take, here's one I prepared earlier. As you can see, this has the tombstones on it, plus the front gate and the railings. So, you know, there's a reasonable bit of height on it. And there we go. Look at that. Snug as a bug enough. In fact, I've got some extra space. I think there was a slightly smaller size for this, but they might have come down as a little bit too small. But for £1.50 each, I'll probably get some of those as well, just to see if they will fit. So that's our relatively flat pieces, but what about those troublesome obelisks? Well, let's find out. So we'll put that in and we'll close the lid. Look at that, marvellous. So yeah, I can just feel the obelisk there, but I can get that shut without any problem at all. I'm just going to try one of the others as well. I think I've got 3 pieces with obelisks. What this has taught me is in the future, if I'm doing some terrain pieces, to maybe not put such high bits of furniture on as well. This one has got a bit of a point on it, so we'll put that in. Right, so we've got the little point just showing through there, so that's a couple of mil out, but that's not an issue. I think what I'll do, well, what I was going to do with these anyway is put some tape on them, some gaffer tape, just to reinforce the corners and edges and everything else. So what I'll do there, I don't know if you can just see the little hole there coming up, is I'll put some tape across this, and then that shouldn't be an issue. So the base size is right, the height is right, perfect. So there we go, that's our complete box. Now the good thing with these is I can stack them. That's not too big a footprint. It is a fair size footprint, but I've got space at the back to stack them. In fact, I've got an old flight case at the back of the shed that's empty at the moment, so I'll put them in there. When it comes to transporting, I'll get maybe I've got a large bag I can put these in, so they'll stay flat. Of course you can store this sort of thing on its side, but even with your bases varnished and protected and everything else, there's going to be a certain amount of flock that comes off, I think, if they're stored on their side. So this is great, they're nice and flat, I can stack them up, I can easily stick them in a larger bag, put them in a car, and we're done. Now, one other thing with these is I've got that bit of space here. Obviously I can use that for something as well. My first thought was my 25mm figures. I do have some boxes from B&M that I've been storing those in. Wouldn't it be great if those boxes just fit snugly into the side there? But as you can see, they're just maybe about 1 centimetre too wide. I don't really want to rest those on the base itself. That's a bit of a shame. However, I do have some other boxes this size, and look at that, made to measure. So I think what I'll do is get some more of these tubs. These are the sort of things that I don't know if they're for the desktop stationery stuff or you put in your fridge to keep your keep your tomatoes in or something. Again, all available at the wonder of delights that is B&M. So I'll get some more of these, then I can put my figures I'm using in there. What I'll probably do is stand the figures up, then put bubble wrap. I'm going to bubble wrap all this as well when I move it. So I can also put dice in here and pens and pencils, that sort of stuff as well. So given that I've got 9 or 10 boxes, that should be everything in one package. And of course the other thing I can get in here is any other bits of terrain or scenery as well, such as my trees. I don't mind if they go on their sides so much. They're just plastic, all one piece. I might put a bit of flocking on the bases, maybe I might just paint them up a little bit more. But again, they can go in with some bubble wrap on top, so they will fit as well. So now I've got all that sorted, I can get on with actually finishing the graveyard. Really, we're just on the stage of giving everything a wash. I've got 1 or 2 little details to put in. Some, I think I've got some ravens and some rats and little bits and pieces just to scatter around as well. So that's what we'll do next time. There we are then. That's the current state of play and the current state of the storage and transport situation. And you know, I think it's one of the things I like about the hobby is, yeah, you've got the painting and the playing and the constructing bits and pieces, but whatever project you start, I find it generally throws up some kind of issue or problem, and you have to spend a bit of time solving that. Another thing we were talking about just recently was how do we fit boards together, and there was all sorts of ideas floating around for that, and it looks like Velcro strips might be the answer to that. So you know, it's another interesting part of the hobby to me, aside from just the actual playing, is all this preparation and thought that goes into it as well. As always, I'll be very interested to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your solutions. And we've had a little influx of new subscribers this month, so welcome to those. Thanks very much for joining, it really is appreciated. And of course, if you haven't already yet, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you next time.